Sorry, I'm a little bit older than Ron, and now I have to wear reading glasses to get through my remarks. Thanks to all of you for being here. First of all, let me thank America's Mighty Warriors, Marathon Petroleum, Mama Lee, and all the donors whose generosity made it possible to finally build a fitting memorial to our honored dead. I'm deeply grateful, and I can only say to you, God bless you. I want to thank General Kurt Taylor, Colonel Brian Frizzell, Lieutenant Colonel J.P. Navarro, and the entire 1st Armored Division, Joint Task Force North, and Fort Bliss teams for your incredible support for this event. And I know this was supposed to be a rare day off for you, but you have made your former commanding general very grateful and very proud. Iron soldiers. To our distinguished visitors, thank you for honoring us with your presence. In the case of General Ron Clark, I know how busy you are, and I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to be with your old battle buddies. And if I can be allowed to say this of a former subordinate who has risen above me in rank, I'm proud of you too. But proud doesn't begin to describe how I feel about my old comrades in arms, both in those who are here and in those who cannot be with us here today. I'm so happy to welcome you and your family members to this ceremony. As some of you might know, I'm Irish, and there's an Irish song for every poignant occasion. One of them is called "The Boys of the Old Brigade," and the refrain goes, "Where are the lads who stood with me when history was made? O Gra Macree, I long to be with the boys of the old brigade." The brigade may not be as young as it was when we were last together, but you're a beautiful sight, and I have indeed longed to be with you again. I also want to bid a special welcome to our Gold Star family members. Thanks for joining us and for representing your soldiers, sailors, and Marines who couldn't be here. I pray that today will bring you some measure of peace, and one day I hope to be once again with your lads, and one remarkable lass as well, who have preceded us to our final reunion in a place where there will be no more tears. 40 years after D-Day, President Reagan addressed the veterans of their momentous battle as the boys of Pointe du Hoc. 20 years after our momentous battle, I'm grateful for this opportunity to address the boys and girls of Ramadi, Heat, and Talifar. 20 years can seem like a long time. It's a full generation. Each of those years has taken its toll on our bodies and left their mark on our world. 20 years can also seem like a short time, as it was for our brothers in arms who lost their lives before they reached their 20th birthday, and of course for their families who raised them and look forward to many more years with them. But 20 years can also seem like the right amount of time. For those of us who served in Ramadi, Heat, and Talifar in 2006 and 2007, to reunite, to reconnect, and to remember. I'm deeply honored to have stood with you in battle those many years ago, and to stand before you now, not as your commander, but as your comrade in arms. No matter what our rank or job was then, or what we have done since, we will always share a bond that we can never share with anyone else. Only we know what our battle looked like, sounded like, felt like, and yes, smelled like. Only we can understand its burdens, and only we can help one another bear them. Your presence today tells me that I'm not alone in thinking that. For despite all the times our fellow Americans may have thanked us for our service, very few of them were paying attention to what we were doing in Iraq in those days. They had been told to go about their lives as though we weren't fighting a war or the terrorists would win. So many of them did their part by ignoring us. Perhaps even worse, those who were paying attention to our war in Iraq did not expect a victory in Anbar province, least of all in Ramadi. our battle was considered a lost cause. Ramadi was a large city, most of it controlled by the enemy. Our predecessors, who had fought bravely and suffered heavily, told us we were too few and the enemy too strong for us to take it back. The military strategy at the time in Iraq was to pull our forces out of the cities and to turn the fight over to the Iraqi security forces, who would stand up as we stood down. But we knew that the Iraqis weren't ready. So we not only thought differently than the others, we fought differently than others. Instead of suffering casualties and going home after a year plus with little to show for our sacrifices, we chose to go on the offensive. With skill and courage, you secured one city neighborhood and one tribal region at a time. As you did so, you innovated in numerous ways, but most importantly, you forged an historic alliance with the tribes in our area of operations that didn't just change the course of our battle, but of the entire war. Even with the support of the tribes, hard fighting was still required to win the victory in Ramadi, just as it was in Tal Afar and Heat. Over the course of our deployment, and for another 3 months after our departure, the soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines here today, along with our brothers and sisters in arms, inflicted many hundreds of casualties on the enemy and captured as many or more. Your success was as dramatic as it was surprising. When we arrived in Ramadi in the summer of 2006, it was called the Heart of Darkness, the most dangerous city in Iraq, the most dangerous city in the world. By the spring of 2007, it was one of the safest. Our progress came at a high cost, though. The enemy fought back with everything they had. The 94 names on the memorial plaque to my left and their faces on the posters beyond it, and the 486 wounded we suffered are proof of that. Some may wonder if it was all worth it. Did we shed our blood, sweat, and tears in vain? After all, ISIS came along less than a decade later and recaptured Ramadi, slaughtering and enslaving any of its citizens who could not escape. To those I say, yes, it was, because we changed the course of history. After 3 years of slowly losing ground to the enemy, we showed the way to victory for the rest of our forces in Iraq, who studied our tactics and successfully replicated them across the entire country. As in Ramadi, the level of violence elsewhere rose for a short time and then dropped off dramatically. We can take pride in the enemy attacks that we prevented, not just through our actions, but also through our example. Many Americans and innocent Iraqi lives were saved in this way, not just in Ramadi, but across Iraq. And although ISIS briefly recaptured Ramadi in 2015, the Iraqis knew from our previous victory that they could take it back. And they did. As terrible as that brief reign of terror was, without our victory in 2007, that reign would have simply started much sooner and no doubt spread from there. We prevented that, and we can be proud of that. As was said of the Battle of Iwo Jima, in Ramadi, Heat, and Tal Afar, uncommon courage was a common virtue. Some acts stand above the rest, like those of Petty Officer Michael Mansour, who earned a posthumous Medal of Honor in Ramadi, and Lieutenant Brian Jackson, who earned a Distinguished Service Cross in Heat. But without a doubt, for every Valor Award, dozens more were deserved. As your former commander, let me take this opportunity now to apologize for not doing a better job of ensuring that recognition. We're trying now to right that wrong for one of our fallen heroes, Sergeant Marquise Quick, and have nominated him for the Medal of Honor, which we strongly believe he earned in Ramadi, sacrificing himself for his teammates. And I stand ready to help other requests. Yes, we changed Iraq, but Iraq changed us too. Some of us bear physical scars of the battle. Others bear invisible scars. Some are no longer with us. Gold Star families and those caring for a seriously wounded warrior will never be the same. Despite the passage of time, we still owe those who suffered our support. And my fervent hope is that by renewing our bonds that we forged in battle, we can once again offer them that support. I'll close with one final thought. We did not fight a war to end all wars. The monument we dedicate today joins your service and sacrifice with those of other combat deployments of the Ready First Combat Team before and after ours to Iraq and Afghanistan. Together they serve as a powerful reminder to the current and future generations of Iron Soldiers of the legacy they are charged to carry forward, and to all Americans that they can never take their freedoms for granted. Too many have suffered and died for them. God bless all we honor by this monument and their families, those who helped to make it possible, those who are dedicated today to dedicate it, and especially all those who are defending us today and their families. Ready first, Iron Soldiers, this will defend.